I've been thinking a lot lately, as I shouldn't say a lot lately because it's been airing for just a few short weeks. However, Maul Shadowlord is so good. It's brought back our ace queen, our sissy Sith himself. Maul is back and he is badder than ever. This time he's got a whole crew with him that is just making this show so much fun to watch. And while I've been watching it, I've also been on the social media a whole lot more, where I feel like it's kind of been fun again, right? There's like no arguing, no telling everyone how terrible the Acolyte is, how woke Star Wars is. If it took a villain to bring that energy back to Star Wars, I am here for it, and I cannot wait to get into it. And I've been reflecting a lot on Maul, on the world that we are back in, and I can't wait to discuss that with you right now. So let's get into this thing. Why Maul is Star Wars' most tragic villain. The internet and the Star Wars dude bro discourse of it all, you know, the ones that talk about who's more powerful, Maul or Vader. They talk about fighting styles. They know all of the lightsaber twirling, this number versus that number, all of that stuff. If that's you, good on you. I love that for you, and I love that matters. But they talk about midichlorians. They talk about prophecy. All of their social media bios have the word Sith in it, or a villain helmet up there, or whatever it is. I've been thinking a lot about them, and I've been thinking about how actually none of that matters. What if Vader and Maul aren't different in strength? But what if they're different because of opportunity and timing? What if they were different because one of them got interrupted and the other didn't? Let's think about that. Welcome to Pink Milk. I'm Brian, and I serve Star Wars queerly. And I want to start something with you right now. But before we get into it, if big old gay Star Wars or snark, sass, shade, good times, if you're a new fan or an old fan, whatever Star Wars flavor you like, if this is something that sounds interesting to you, please follow wherever you're watching/listening to this. Leave a comment. Let's get into some conversations, because if there's anything I love about Star Wars, it is communicating with fans who can agree to disagree. We can shout enjoy together, or we can have a deep, heavy conversation on the meaning of Star Wars. Anyway, if that's your thing, follow me here. Do your things on the socials. I can't wait to talk about this with you. All right, one simple thing. I want us to think about Maul, and that he's not scary just because he's powerful. He's scary because he never changes. Most villains, most often, evolve in some way, shape, or form. Maul doesn't. Maul loops. He doesn't really have a character arc, or if he does have a character arc, that arc is all about the repeating system that he keeps finding himself in over and over and over, whether he's flying through the streets of Coruscant, sending probots out to chase down Anakin Skywalker or Obi-Wan, whoever it is, Padme, down in the deserts of Tatooine, if he's building spider legs in a junkyard, if he's resurrected by his mom and fighting alongside of his brother, he's always finds himself stuck in the same system. And Star Wars doesn't just tell stories. They actually tell patterns all of the time. I think it's one of the things that you notice in Star Wars everywhere when you start thinking about it. And it's probably one of the things that we like the most. Love or hate The Last Jedi, which we'll talk about a little later today. It changed the pattern. It tried to break that pattern, which I found interesting. Did it work all the way for me? Not so sure. But I like the idea of challenging a pattern. I like the idea of a pattern to, one, speculate. When is it going to break? Who's going to break it? Who's going to repeat it? All of those things is the simple storytelling that Star Wars finds itself in and gives us great characters to play in that. So once you notice the patterns in Star Wars, you see them everywhere. Broken people don't just fall once, they fall in cycles. And this idea changes everything, because based on a lot of the ideology that Clone Wars brought in with Maul, was all about a Greek myth. A man named Sisyphus. Yes, talking Star Wars queerly, serving it with shade and with sass. And now we're talking about Sisyphus. I mean, and our ace queen Maul, that boy can sissy, that walk and sashay that lightsaber away, and I am here for it. However, the Greek myth Sisyphus, he was condemned by the gods to roll a builder up a hill forever. Every time boy hits the top of the hill, the boulder rolls right back down. No ending, no resolution, just repetition. Philosopher Albert Camus wrote once about this, and he said, the struggle itself, well, it's enough to fill a man's heart. And that struggle, that emptiness is why we connect to Maul. I think all of us have had moments in our life where the struggle overpowered us. Maybe we all had that boyfriend and somewhere a long time ago. Hopefully it wasn't a long ago. And if you find yourself with this person right now, cut the cord. All right. I've been there. Don't do it. All of us have found ourselves in relationships, whether it's a romantic partner, a relative, a friend, a coworker, that no matter what we do, it just doesn't work. We just try to build it back up and we just roll right back down that hill, and it creates such an empty feeling. That struggle is so real. And I actually think beyond the horns, beyond the rad makeup, beyond the kicks and the flips and the sachets and the sissy walks that Maul loves to serve us, that's what we're connecting to. I think we all connect to those times in our life. Hopefully they're behind us, not in front of us. If we're currently in them, let this be your opportunity to clip them away. Sissy, that walk right out of that bad, toxic relationship. But these are the things that we connect to him about. We've all been there at some point in our life, a time where life struggles replaced our meaning, but where struggle outweighed the future and it just felt never ending. That's Maul. Not a villain with a plan, a system stuck in motion, revenge, loss, obsession, survival, revenge again. He doesn't ever escape it. He just re-enters it over and over and over and over again. And this is where Vader differs greatly from Maul, where that debate of power, fighting skill, midichlorian counts, training doesn't matter. Dudes both got robot legs. That's about as in common as they've got, and they probably both hate Palpatine, right? Maybe there's two things our dudes have in common, but it isn't the power or the fighting style or its technique. He differs in timing because of an opportunity given to Vader and not to Maul. He gets an interruption, being Vader. Vader gets an interruption from Luke Skywalker, his son. Luke Skywalker doesn't defeat Vader with the Force. It's not about the fighting techniques. It isn't about the time he had to train. It isn't about midichlorians. It's about identity. And when Luke Skywalker says to Dad, I'm a Jedi like my father before me, Luke Skywalker saw that Darth Vader and that Anakin Skywalker were two different people. No, Obi-Wan didn't lie. It's all from a certain point of view. And that line isn't about truth. It's about recognition, recognizing that Anakin was a person before Darth Vader. Luke looks at Vader and says, you're not only Vader, you're not only this. And that creates a space for Vader to breathe in. It gives him a moment to reflect. It gives him a moment to wonder and to ponder and to remember in between each of those mechanical breaths. I remember Padme. I remember those ideals I once stood for. Can I go back there again? Those are deep thoughts inside of Vader. But between those mechanical breaths, he had space to think. Maul never gets that opportunity. He never gets that space because he always is in that cycle. He never, ever, ever gets an opportunity to breathe. And that, I think, is where the biggest difference between Maul and Vader sits. This is where Star Wars stops being fantasy, it stops being a space opera, and it stops being polite and starts getting real. If you know, you know. This isn't just mythology, it's a cycle. And it's a cycle that we've all experienced. It's the anger that loops in all of us when we reflect on bad times. Like, look, as a gay dude and a gay dude who came up in the 90s, there's lots of trauma and lots of triggers that make me angry like that. And I have to breathe. I have to do my box breathing in 4, hold for 4, out for 4, and sit for 4. And you do that. Box breathing's great. Everyone do it. Maul, try some breathing. But in those moments, I get triggered and I find myself in that pattern, the same patterns that Maul gets into. Luckily now I have not 1, not 2, but 3 Luke Skywalkers at home to remind me of the person that I can be. So it's that cycle that separates Maul and Vader. It's the pain that becomes identity. It's the only difference between healing and repetition is interruption. If there's only one thing that can break repetition is interruption. Nobody is interrupting Maul, and that is where the real tragedy is. That's what's so heartbreaking. So if Maul represents a cycle that never stops, the next question is, what happens when an entire system learns that you can watch these cycles and instead of stopping them, you watch them and you study them? That is where the Empire changes shape, and that's where things get colder. That's what we're going to be introduced into this show as well, and I'm very, very excited.
Watch out! And he's got a lightsaber!
It's Kenner's Star Wars action figures, each sold separately.
I got you now, Ben Kenobi!
With R2-D2 and C-3PO. There's even Chewbacca and Han Solo.
Someone's coming, Chewie. Who's there? It's Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker. Now I know the Force is with us.
Darth Vader, R2-D2, C-3PO, and other Kenner Star Wars action figures, each sold separately.